Hello, I'm Tootight Lautrec. Welcome back to the Shakey Sonnet Show. We're here at the bottom of the down staircase in the permanently sequestered remainders section of an unnamed local library with some lion couchants guarding us, making sure nobody goes in or out until their time is up. And I have a big confession to make. Sometimes with Shakespeare sonnets, I just don't get it. And today, Sonnet 10 is a prime example of how I just don't get it. We'll hop right into it. Actually, Don Patterson, because, you know, I do need all the help I can get. I go to Helen Vendler, I read a chapter on her exegesis on the sonnets, and then I put it down and get a cup of coffee because I just don't care what she has to say most of the time. I go to Don Patterson. Don Patterson says that everything here is clear enough and that there's no clarification necessary. But I admit here and now in front of the world, in front of Don Patterson and Helen Vendler, that I don't get it. And I don't get it even at the very beginning, the very first sentence. I'll read it through. We'll talk about it, and you can let me know what you think. Sonnet 10. For shame deny that thou bear'st love to any, who for thyself art so unprovident. Grant if thou wilt, thou art beloved of many, but that thou none lov'st is most evident. For thou art so possessed with murderous hate, that 'gainst thyself thou stick'st not to conspire, seeking that beauteous roof to ruinate, which to repair should be thy chief desire. Oh, change thy thought, that I may change my mind. Shall hate be fairer lodged than gentle love? Be as thy presence is, gracious and kind, or to thyself at least kind-hearted prove. Make thee another self for love of me, that beauty still may live in thine or thee. And, well, a couple of things right off the bat. There is no I in dunce, but there is an I in Sonnet 10. For the first time of all the sonnets, we see that there's an I. Change thy thought, that I may change my mind. Who is this I person? Make thee another self for love of me? Who could that be? Is it actually William Shakespeare? I don't know. But let's start at the very beginning. That very first sentence doesn't make sense to me as a sentence. Unprovident means lacking caution or lacking foresight. For shame deny that thou bear'st love to any who for thyself art so unprovident. Okay, so I don't get it. For shame, what's the shame? Deny that thou bear'st love to any. So I guess he should be ashamed that he or she does not love someone. And it's not just anybody, but any who for thyself art so unprovident. So perhaps there's someone who has no foresight and loves this person, and this person should have shame that they don't love the other person, they don't reciprocate. But why deny? I just don't get it. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. For shame deny that thou bear'st love to any who for thyself art so unprovident. Well, here's where I seek some more help, and I go to the wonderful Stephen Booth, who says, he says this about Sonnet 8, but I'll read a little excerpt here in the gloss to Sonnet 8, which applies here in Sonnet 10. Stephen Booth says, often Shakespeare's use of language is such that a reader can make no paraphrase that both follows the syntax of the lines and says what he knows the lines mean. One can almost always make a general paraphrase of a Shakespeare sonnet and give a satisfactory gloss for any particular word in it. But if one puts together a new sentence replacing Shakespeare's words with their glosses, one will often get a sentence that makes no sense at all. Sometimes Shakespeare's own sentences can be demonstrated to mean nothing at all, even where readers actually understand them perfectly. And that seems to be what's going on here as well. There's a chiding, you don't love anyone, everyone loves you because you're gorgeous and beautiful. That's what's happening here, but it's certainly not clear in terms of language because the sentence just does not make sense. The third line, grant if thou wilt, thou art beloved of many. Well, that we get. We get the sense of what the first two lines were trying to say. Admit it, people love you, but you don't love anybody else. Grant if thou wilt, thou art beloved of many, but that thou none lovest is most evident. It's clear that you don't love anybody, even all these people who love you. For thou art so possessed with murderous hate. And here we have murderous hate again. We had murderous shame in Sonnet 9. We have murderous hate here in Sonnet 10. Perhaps there is a hint at homosexuality here, which was a capital offense. Perhaps this person is a man and he hates women, and that's considered murderous hate because if he's caught, he will be murdered. That's a possibility, I suppose. But I think that more likely it has to do with masturbation again, because I think just about everything has to do with masturbation if you haven't caught on. Because everything does have to do with masturbation every once in a while. Thou art so possessed with murderous hate that, and here I have my proof. Thou art so possessed with murderous hate that 'gainst thyself thou stick'st not to conspire. Well, wonders what's sticking to oneself. I don't wonder anymore. I get it completely. Thou stick'st not to conspire. In other words, I mean, in a more literal sense, you have no scruples. You have no scruples about what's to come next. That thou art so possessed with murderous hate that 'gainst thyself thou stick'st not to conspire, seeking that beauteous roof to ruinate, which to repair should be thy chief desire. And read literally, you don't quite get it, but as Don Patterson so helpfully points out, that beauteous roof is an example of metaleptic double metonymy. Okay, well, metalepsis I'll get to in a minute, but there are similes, metaphors, metonymies, synecdoche. You know, I hear they have antibiotics for that now, but we'll go through them. So to say that somebody is as tall as a tree is a simile. They are as tall as a tree. But if you say he's a tree, that's metaphor. The thing that it is not, that it resembles, it stands in for the thing itself. It's not just that he's as tall as a tree, it's he is a tree. So that's metaphor. Metonymy, in this case, house, you know, a family. In this case, roof and house and family are what's being talked about here. Families live in houses. The house is a part of the whole of the family. So a metonymy is part of a whole, and synecdoche is an even smaller part of that. So you've got the family, you've got metonymy of house, and you've got synecdoche, roof. And so metalepsis is a figure of speech in which a word or phrase from figurative speech is used in a new context, which is sort of cool. I can appreciate that. So you have no scruples against ruining the good name of your home. So house, as in the house of Lautrec, for instance, or the house of, you know, the Yorks or the Lancasters or any of those people who with their Edwards and Richards and Henrys throughout all of history, you have no scruples about ruining the roof of your house, the top of your house, which I guess is you, because you're so beautiful and you're the pinnacle of everything. You have no scruples against ruining yourself when repairing yourself, or keeping yourself in good repair, should be your chief desire. And to keep yourself in good repair, you need to generate offspring, allow the name of that house to live on forever and ever and ever, so that you can take over the whole world with your beauty. So let's go over that once more. For thou art so possessed with murderous hate that 'gainst thyself thou stick'st not to conspire, seeking that beauteous roof to ruinate, which to repair should be thy chief desire. Oh, change thy thought, that I may change my mind. Well, who the heck are you, I? If this is, if we're following the autobiographical model, where Shakespeare was commissioned to write to some young lad and encourage him to procreate, then I haven't seen anything in these first 10 sonnets that speaks to such a very close relationship that that this kid would even care who Shakespeare is. Perhaps he knows Shakespeare because of his grand reputation in the world and admires him, and so perhaps the parents think, well, get some rich or some famous author to write sonnets, and perhaps that will persuade him. I don't know, but it's certainly an odd addition coming at Sonnet 10. Change thy thought that I may change my mind. Shall hate be fairer lodged than gentle love? Hate? I think I had a note about hate. Yes, I did. The note is hate. 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 This could just be bombastic language or hyperbole or drama queenery or something, but I don't see where hate is necessarily called for in this sonnet, and I don't understand its presence here. Shall hate be fairer lodged than gentle love? In other words, maybe perhaps it's, do you hate your mother so much you won't have a child for me? Perhaps that's what it is. I don't know. I'm not Jewish or Italian or even originally from New York, but I hear that that's what they sound like. Shall hate be fairer lodged than gentle love? Be as thy presence is, gracious and kind. You yourself, the very presence of you, you are gracious and kind. Be kind. Be good to your mother. Have a child. Have a baby, please. Or at least to yourself, kind-hearted. If you don't care for your mother, if you really want to just spit on her grave and walk on by, that's fine. But at least be kind to yourself. To thyself, at least kind-hearted prove. Make thee another self for love of me. Well, here's that me again. I mean, who do you think you are, Mr. Me, Mr. I, Mr. Shakespeare, if that's who in fact you are? Make thee another self for love of me. Well, that brings up lots of things. What sort of, is this the love of a nephew to an uncle? Is this the love of a young noble person to an accomplished writer? Is this a different kind of love that can be punished with murder? I don't know. Make thee another self for love of me, that beauty still may live in thine or thee. Well, okay, I get the argument. Make thee another self, that beauty still may live in thine, meaning all the progeny that you put forth. But why thee? Thee rhymes with me, so perhaps that's why it's there. But in terms of the English language and common sense, that beauty still may live in thine or thee. Make thee another self for love of me, that beauty still may live in thine or thee. Why thee? Why is thee there? Perhaps so that I can still consider you beautiful. No idea. Dramatically, I mean, I've spoken about what the possibilities were if this is an autobiographical sonnet commissioned, that Shakespeare was commissioned to do for a lad to encourage him to marry and have children. But what would the dramatic possibilities be? Well, for instance, maybe in the house of Lear, if Lear were to say this to one of his daughters, that Cordelia, that she should marry before he goes all crazy and doesn't understand exactly what she is saying when she tells him how much she loves him and that she does want to marry. Or perhaps this could be anyone in the house of the Plantagenet dynasties that filter on down through the ages in English monarchy and in Shakespeare's plays. I don't know. That could be a fine place for this sonnet. If you've made it this far and feel any less of a dunce than I do, please let me know. If you have insights to alleviate my shameful ignorance, let me know that too. If you just want to have a good time, go out and have a good time, because life doesn't last and you have to enjoy every moment. So while you're out enjoying the world, pay attention to its wonders. Think of me. Come back next time. Tell your friends all about Tootight Lautrec's shameful ignorance in one particular sonnet, and that perhaps we'll get smarter as we go along. Tell your friends. Maybe they can enjoy watching the debacle as it unfolds. Who knows? For now, this has been the Shakey Sonnet Show. I am Tootight Lautrec. Mwah.